Hey y'all, it's Rhonda from Joy Junktique, and I just wanted to come back today and show you how I've been printing on fabric. And it's super easy, and there's so much that you can do with it. So you can look back at some of my projects and see some of the things that I've done, but I'm going to show you today just how quickly and how fun it can be and what all you can do with it. Okay, so here's a couple examples. And these are both with Sam Pool's Digitals. And what I started with, I ordered these full-size adhesive sheets, kind of like mailing labels, except they're the full sheet. And it's this brand, and I will find the link and put that below. They were fairly inexpensive, and there's a big pack of it, so it's going to last a long time. So all I did is take one of those, and so you have the little backing sheet that peels off. So you get whatever fabric you want to print it on. And I basically went to the dollar store and found these flour sacks because it gives you that really kind of like a muslin look about it. And I just really liked it, and they're thin enough that you can, add them to another piece of fabric and not bulk up your journal or whatever you're creating. So I just went with these on most things. Now I also have experimented with sheets, just old sheets. And so this one I took and just spread it out, and you can see it's wrinkled. But a lot of times that doesn't even matter in the end. If you want to iron it, that would be fine, if it makes it easier for you. But whenever I find that it's wrinkled, sometimes I want it to be wrinkled because I want it to not be perfect, but I can just take and pull it and pull those wrinkles out as I go. And that way, if you want it smooth, then it's just super easy to pull those out. You can just kind of keep maneuvering it till you get it like you want it. And then once I get it how I want it placed on there, then I just take my scissors and I will cut around the edges. And there's another wrinkle right there. So I'm sure, yeah, it would probably be easier to iron it. But like I said, a lot of times I want it. I want the wrinkles. So then I just take and trim around the edges. And I would try to rip it, but sometimes your fabric doesn't rip very straight. Doesn't look like I'm cutting very straight either. But I just kind of trim it out really quick. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but just close, because when it runs through the printer, you want it to, not snag in your printer and cause it to jam. So I'm just going to cut around this really quick. So that's another option as far as fabric, just an old sheet that you have. This one's actually kind of a cream color. So there's that. I also put it on an old pillowcase that I had tore up and been using just for scraps. So there's another way. Just use what you have. If you don't have, the tea towels, that's okay. But just go, just get you an old pillowcase or an old sheet or just anything that you have that is thin and that can be printed on. So that's another one that I will cut out and use. Okay, so real quick, I'm just going to kind of move this stuff out of the way, and I'm going to show you how I went about placing that on the fabric. So I'm just going to open these tea towels. Flour sacks is what they're actually called on here. And I think they were like $3 or $4. But whenever you see how big they are, I mean, you can get a lot out of this one flour sack tea towel. So it's very much worth it. And see, they're really thin. But I honestly like that. And also, it depends on where you buy them as to how thin they're going to be. So I just like to kind of play with whatever I can find and just see the effects that I get. Okay, so I'm going to take my sheet here, my adhesive sheet. And I've seen this, lots of people use these. So, I mean, there's a lot of videos out there that show using these. And so then I start on one end and kind of put it where I want it. I'm trying to get around that wrinkle at the top. I just kind of stretch my fabric as I go. And like I said, you can always go back and pull it from the back. And then I just gently kind of lay it down and smooth it out. So then I would cut around this and have that ready. And run it through the printer. So, okay, really quick before I go print, I just wanted to show a couple more things. This is another way that I add the adhesive sometimes without pulling it off of completely off the backing. I'll just pull a little bit down on it and attach it to the fabric, and then kind of pull it as I go so I can smooth out the fabric a little better. And sometimes that does tend to help. So that's just another option there. You know, just make it a little easier if it's too hard to take the whole sheet at one time. Sometimes it's easier just to attach the top of it and just kind of drag it down as you go, pulling the backing off and kind of, you know, pushing it to your fabric. Let me show you on the back of this one. This one I've had ready for a while and I've just never used it. But I took and I printed on it, on the fabric, using, because I didn't have any of these labels at first. And so I just had this shelf paper, a roll of it that somebody had given me. And the pattern is not something that I would use in my cabinets or in, you know, for anything else. So I just kept it to use as a backing. So this one was actually done with shelf paper. So that's another option. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, anything expensive. Just kind of go with what you have and use that up, or you can order these labels, which make it really easy. You know, if you don't want to fool with the shelf paper. So I'm just going to cut around this really quick, and then I'm going to show you. Sometimes my printer will pull it perfectly, no problems. I can do like 4 or 5, and then that next one is going to give me trouble. So I'm just always ready and prepared in case, with some masking tape and a piece of cardstock that I can tape on the end that is going to actually be pulled through your printer. So I'll show you that, how I get that ready in case. And I usually just keep trying it until it messes up, and then I'll do whatever needs to be done with the masking tape and the cardstock on the next one. Okay, so got that. Okay, so what I do is I just take a piece of cardstock, and that's only if my printer doesn't take it. But I have just a cheap little HP printer. It loads from the rear. So instead of it coming through the front and having to twist around and go through all like this in your printer, that's where it gets jammed. So that's why I ordered the rear loading, because you just stick it in the back and it runs straight through. So there's no bending, no having to go through any crevices and stuff like that. So it just goes in and it prints right out. But still at times it will have trouble grabbing this edge. And I usually try to pick the straightest edge. And so I just use the straightest edge, and I get my corners to where they're ready to go through. Just kind of bend them or whatever you have to do. And then if it doesn't go through, if it jams my printer, which it doesn't jam my printer, mine just doesn't take it. It makes me think it's taking it so far, and then it just doesn't print it, so nothing comes out. So I just pull it right back out, but then the printer has all the ink gunked up on everything, so I have to clean my printer. So it is a little frustrating sometimes, and you could do this every time just to avoid that. But when I'm printing a bunch, I usually just try to keep going with it without the cardstock. But if it does that, then I take and I put a piece of cardstock in the back where the slick side is, and then the fabric's on top. And then I just get me a little piece of masking tape, and you can use washi tape, you can use whatever you have. I kind of like to use the masking tape because it will also take the print And that way I have a little bonus piece of tape down here that has a design on it. So that's always fun. But I just, let me find my scissors. I just cut a piece of tape that's about the size, the width of the paper. And then I just straighten it, make sure it's good and straight how you want it. And then I just add it as close to the edge as I can, but still catch it. Unless you want more of the design on the tape. But if it's something that I need like almost the full page to create with, then I just try to keep it on the very edge. But you can raise it up and get more of the design on your tape. So then I would just keep it straight, flip it over, and lay that tape down like that. So then you have this nice, you know, just substantial edge. That's the problem whenever you go to run this fabric through. It's so lightweight that a lot of times it can't pull it. So I just make it more substantial with the cardstock and the masking tape. So this is ready to go through my printer now. So I'm gonna go print a few things and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have never had this problem before, but when I went to run it through my printer with just this one piece of tape on here, it just pulled like this. And so this was still sticking up there and it was not letting it go through. So if that happens, then, this is the first time that's ever happened, but I'm just gonna go and put another little piece of tape up here so that it will stay together as I pull it through the printer. So that's just another little tip that I just encountered. So you'll see in a minute that actually worked, putting the tape at the bottom, but I wanted to show another way that you can do it. Sometimes I kind of raise the fabric up from the bottom of the cardstock just a little bit so that you have a thinner piece actually being pulled into the printer. So sometimes I will tape that a little bit higher on that cardstock just so that it's not quite so thick for the printer to try to pull through. Because I think sometimes if the fabric is too thick or if your tape is a little thicker, then sometimes you can run into that problem. And I just had to get a different piece of tape because that one was too short. Because you want it to go from edge to edge and then just cut off the extra. But you do want the corners to be put taped down on if you do it this way, because they will kind of roll up into the printer if you don't. So once you get those little edges cut off, then it should be ready to go. And this way works good. It just all kind of depends on your fabric and what kind of tape. You can use thinner tape if you have it, if that works better for you. But just kind of experiment, because it's just kind of a trial and error process. But eventually you'll get it and it'll be definitely worth the effort. Okay, so I am back with the printed pieces that I have run through my printer. And actually these two, they did fine. So I actually had less trouble just using them like this than I did with the tape one this time. So it's just kind of one of those things. It depends on what mood my printer's in that day. But, and I will leave a link to my printer, the best I can find, one similar to it down below. And I just paid probably, I think it was like $100 for it at Walmart. And then I just signed up. I've been on the instant ink plan for years because I've had an HP for a while. So I just, I love using the instant ink and these little, cheaper version of the HP, because they just work really well for what I need them to do. They pull through the really thick paper. I just haven't had a lot of trouble, with it actually printing on all kinds of different things. So, and the color is really good. I've always had people tell me, what kind of printer do you have? Because your images are just so clear and so pretty on the colors. So evidently it does pretty good for people to tell me that. Okay, so here I have this was the cream colored sheet, and then this was the white pillowcase, and it actually had a few little stains on it, so I don't know if you can see that, but I just like how it adds to the character. And see, this has wrinkles, but it still turned out just fine. And then this one also had a wrinkle, And so it's not exactly perfect, but that is what I like. So if you want it completely, you know, just crisp and perfect on your paper, then go ahead and iron it. But I'm good with just going with the wrinkles because it adds more character to my pages. Here really quick, I just wanted to show you another option that you can use printed fabric. You don't have to use white or cream. And so whenever I ran it through, I just used this script printable by Ruby and Pearl, and you just kind of get the effect there so you can see what is possible. So once they're printed, this is on the tea towel, the little flour sack, and it is super thin. So I will show you when I take it off, it is very thin. And see, it actually printed just a tad on here. Had I had it up higher, it would have taken some out of that lace. But I printed this. This is actually Sweet Pea Curiosities, and she has this lace digital. So I just went ahead and printed that one on here, and then I can cut this apart and use it like I would the lace, the actual lace. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this off. And then it's a little kind of aggravating sometimes to get this to come off because it is so thin, and so it sticks so well because it is so thin. So I just have to kind of work at it. Oh, and one thing I want to tell you before I do that is that on some of my projects, I have actually left the backing on so that it would be stiffer. And then I also, like on this one has the backing. You can see it through there maybe. It still has the backing. You can hear it anyway. But because it is so thin and it wasn't quite big enough for the envelope I wanted to make, then I just took and glued this with some good glue. I used my Fabri-Tac, and I glued it down to another piece of my sheet. So I just cut it a little bigger depending on what I wanted to make, and I glued it down to that. And then I just took and made a pleat fold like that so that my envelope will have some room in it to grow with whatever I put in there. And then I'll just take and sew around here and around here, and then go from there on what I add to it. So if you want to add like a lace flap to the top, then I would do that before I stitch the sides together. Just sew up your little, or glue it, whatever, to the top, so that then you can go back and sew the edges, and you won't have to fight that when you're putting that flap on. And then you'll just have a little cute little flap, whichever side you would pick to put it on, and it would just hang over the front. So that's an option for that. But whenever I make an envelope or something and I want it to be a little stiffer, I leave the backing on it, and it just adds to the crinkle sound too, and I really like that. So there's that. But if you want to just, like, I'm gonna cut these apart, so I would go ahead and just pull it off the backing. And normally it comes off in one piece, but of course since I'm making a video, it's not. There we have our cute little lace piece. And so I would just go in and cut these apart and just keep these to use however you would normally use lace or whatever, and you know, use it in my journal that way. So there is the tea towel flour sack printed on. And that's actually what this is printed on too. This pink one is on the tea towel. Okay, so then I have this one that I put on that cream colored sheet. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet, so I'm probably just going to leave it on here for now until I need to use it for a project. But I really like how it turns out. I'll pull a little bit off and show you. So you could, you know, use it. I even thought about folding it up and making a bag like I had with the others, and have like a cloth bag, or you could use the backing, leave it on there, and it would be a little stiffer for your bag. So there's an option. Or you can peel this off and put cardstock on the back, if you'd rather. But I also thought about making a little folio, same exact concept, and just do that, kind of like a little clutch folio. And then you could put your pages inside and put a little button or a little latch of some kind here. So that would be cute. But, you know, if not, then I could just rip it, what pieces I want, cut it, rip it, and add it to pages in my journal. But I just like the effect that you get when you have, that you can do it on fabric, because your options, you have so many more options whenever you are able to use fabric. So something else that you can work with. And then on this page, this is the pillowcase, and I will probably trim this straight and then make this another little sweet envelope or folio even. But any way that you would use fabric, you have that option of printing your own fabric with these digitals. It's just fun. So because, you know, it just opens up the door to a lot of other projects and gives it that really vintage, handmade, I don't know, to me it just gives it more of a handmade feel, and I like that. So I just wanted to show you how I've been doing that. It's really easy. It can be a little aggravating if your printer wants to be contrary that day, but just work through the issues, just do the best you can. If it doesn't work, then go to another option. You know, try something different, try a different fabric, try taping your paper. So you know, just work through those challenges because it's worth it in the end. But here is the results of everything that I've printed on today. And then also the ones I had printed on the other day. And this one. And on another project, I actually used one of these to do the top of a box. I loved the fabric look about it. It looked like lace, so I added it to the top of an old box that was kind of rough looking. So any way that you would, you know, use fabric, or just let the images just kind of inspire you. You know, just use your imagination on what you could do with it. So you could make little sachets with these, little banners, you know, just any way that you would use fabric. So just, you have all of these designs at your fingertips whenever you know, purchase these from these designers. So you have so many options with what your fabric's going to look like. So just enjoy getting to try this out, and I would love to see the projects that you make. So if you're on Instagram, just tag me in those so I can see what you're making, and I can be inspired by what you're making. So here's all that I did today, and some of the ones that I had already made. And I'm excited to be able to use these. So I'm just gonna kind of keep them in my stash until I'm ready and need them and get inspired to use these. So I hope that helps, and if you have any questions at all, just put them down in the comments and I will try my best to answer. And if I didn't show something that would be helpful to you, just let me know and I will make another video. So I enjoyed being here with y'all today, and I thank you so much for your support, and I guess I will see you on the next video. Y'all have a great one. God bless.